The alarm screamed through the quiet bedroom like a fire drill nobody asked for. Daniel Hayes slammed his hand on the nightstand 3 times before finally silencing the noise. His eyes felt heavy from another sleepless night spent reviewing client portfolios and watching cartoons with his daughter. "Daddy!" "We are going to be late again," Emma's voice carried down the hallway with the certainty of a 7-year-old who had already learned about schedules. Daniel jumped out of bed as if someone had poured cold water on him. Today was the first day back after summer vacation. He had promised himself that this time, this year, they would arrive on time. He rushed to the bathroom, brushing his teeth with one hand while trying to button his shirt with the other. Are you dressed yet?" he called out, toothpaste still in his mouth.
Yes.
"Daddy, I also packed my backpack and brushed my hair all by myself." Her proud voice echoed from the kitchen. Daniel smiled while rinsing his mouth quickly. How did his little girl manage to be so organized while he, a grown man of 34 years, could barely find matching socks? He found one sock inside the refrigerator last week. Emma had called it her science experiment. The rush begins 20 minutes later. After a series of small disasters involving spilled orange juice, missing car keys, and a shoe that somehow ended up in the laundry basket, they finally made it to the car. "We are only 15 minutes late. That is almost early by our standards," Daniel joked while adjusting the mirror. Emma rolled her eyes like a teenager instead of a first grader. "The new teacher will not like that, Daddy. Aunt Rachel said she is very strict about being on time." Daniel raised his eyebrows. "New teacher. What happened to Mrs. Patterson? She retired, remember?" Everyone was talking about the new teacher during summer camp. "They say she came from another city, and she knows everything about stars and planets." "Interesting," Daniel said. More focused on dodging traffic than thinking about teachers. The school arrival when they arrived at Riverside Elementary. The parking lot was almost empty. Only a few other late families hurried toward the building. Daniel grabbed Emma's hand and walked quickly through the colorful hallways decorated with welcome banners and student artwork. "Room 12. Room 12, he repeated quietly, searching for the right door. "Here it is." "Daddy," Emma pointed to a door covered with paper butterflies and a sign that read "Welcome to 2nd grade." Daniel knocked softly and opened the door, immediately feeling 20 pairs of curious young eyes turn toward them. But it was not the children that made his heart stop for a moment. It was the woman standing at the front of the classroom. "Sorry for being late." "We had some—" The words died in his throat. Dark brown hair that fell past her shoulders. Green eyes that seemed to see straight into his soul. A smile he had never been able to forget, no matter how many years had passed. "Olivia," he whispered her name like a prayer. The recognition, the woman who had been smiling warmly at Emma, suddenly froze. Her eyes widened just slightly before she recovered her professional composure, though her cheeks turned a soft shade of pink. "Mr. Hayes, I assume?" She spoke with a controlled voice that revealed no sign of recognition, even though Daniel could see the tension in her shoulders. "I am Olivia Grant, the new 2nd grade teacher. Please come in. Emma can sit next to Jessica near the window." Emma, completely unaware of the electric tension between her father and her new teacher, ran happily to the empty desk beside her friend. Daniel stood frozen in the doorway, unable to process what was happening. Olivia Grant, here, after 8 years. The same Olivia who had left one spring morning without explanation, leaving only a short note and an emptiness that nothing had been able to fill. "Mr. Hayes." Her voice pulled him back to the present moment. "Is there anything else you need?" "I need explanations. I need to know why you disappeared. I need to understand how my heart can still race like this after all these years." He could not say any of those things. "We'll pick her up at 3 o'clock, he managed to say instead. Olivia nodded professionally. "We will be waiting. Have a good day." And with that, she turned back to the class and began her lesson as if Daniel was just another parent, as if they were complete strangers, as if they had never promised to spend their whole lives together. The aftermath. Daniel closed the door behind him and leaned against the hallway wall for a moment. His head was spinning with memories he had worked so hard to bury. Olivia was back, and somehow Impossibly, she was now his daughter's teacher, the universe. Daniel decided as he walked in a daze toward the parking lot, had a very strange sense of humor. Memory surfaced 8 years ago. The summer sky had been filled with stars when Daniel spread a blanket on the grass near the university lake. It was their favorite spot for studying, but that night books were the last thing on his mind. "Are you sure we will not get in trouble for being here so late?" Olivia had asked, laughing as she sat down beside him. "I am still a student for 3 more days, so we are just bending the rules a little." He pulled out a bottle of cheap wine and 2 plastic cups. "Besides, what better place to celebrate your scholarship?" Olivia smiled, that smile that always made Daniel's heart skip. At 22, she was the brightest education student in her class, and she had just received a full scholarship to continue her graduate studies. "I cannot believe it actually happened," she whispered, taking the cup he offered. "My parents never imagined anyone in our family would make it to college, let alone get a scholarship. To the future best teacher this country will ever see." They drank, and when Olivia lowered her cup, her eyes sparkled with happy tears. "And to us," she added softly. "To our future." Daniel moved closer, touching her face with gentle fingers. "You know I would follow you anywhere, right? Even if I decide to teach in some small village in the mountains?" She teased. "Especially if you decide to teach in the mountains. Think of what an adventure that would be." Olivia laughed and leaned in to kiss him. "You are crazy, Daniel Hayes." "Is crazy about you?" Olivia Grant. Their kiss under the stars had felt like a promise written across the universe. Back to reality, the memory faded as Daniel's phone buzzed, bringing him back to the present. Rachel's name flashed on the screen. "Hey, Ratch," he answered, trying to sound normal. "So how was Emma's first day? Did she like the new teacher?" Daniel swallowed hard. "About that. You will not believe who the new teacher is." "Who?" "Olivia." Silence. Then an explosion of words. "Olivia Grant. The Olivia who left without any explanation? The Olivia you spent years trying to forget. That Olivia?" Daniel moved the phone away from his ear, making a face. "Yes, that one." "Oh my goodness. What did she say?" "What did you say?" "Nothing. She acted like she barely knew me. It was completely strange." Rachel let out a long breath from the other end of the line. "This is the universe giving you another chance, big brother." "Or the universe making fun of me," Daniel grumbled. "Besides, she is Emma's teacher now. I cannot just—" "Of course you can. You deserve answers at the very least. And do not tell me you have moved on, because we both know that is not true." Evening reflections later that evening. After putting Emma to bed with promises that yes, her new teacher was very nice, and yes, she would have a wonderful school year, Daniel sat alone in his living room with a glass of wine. His wife Clara had passed away 3 years ago after a sudden illness. She had been his college friend who became his partner after Olivia left. A marriage built on friendship and respect that ended far too soon. Clara had known about Olivia. She had been the one to help Daniel pick up the pieces after Olivia disappeared. And one of the last things Clara had told him before she died was to never close his heart to love again. "Do not let fear win, Daniel," she had whispered. "Emma needs to see what real love looks like. Promise me," had promised. But keeping that promise had proved harder than he expected. Now, staring at the bottom of his wine glass, Daniel wondered if the universe was giving him a sign or just testing his patience. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Olivia. We should talk. Can we meet tomorrow after school? There is a coffee shop on the corner near the school." Daniel stared at the message for a long moment before typing his reply. "I will be there." Sleep did not come easily that night. When it finally did, Daniel dreamed of starlit skies, broken promises, and the woman he had never stopped loving. The coffee shop was called Morning Light, a small place with wooden tables, hanging plants, and the smell of fresh-baked goods. Daniel arrived 15 minutes early, ordered a black coffee he did not really want, and chose a table near the window where he could see the door. His hands felt sweaty. His heart beat faster than normal. He felt like a teenager waiting for a first date instead of a 34-year-old father meeting an old flame. She arrives at exactly 3:30. Olivia walked through the door. She had changed from her professional teaching clothes into a simple blue dress, her hair now loose around her shoulders. She looked more like the Olivia he remembered from their college days. And that made everything harder. "Hi," she said, sitting across from him. "Hi," he replied, suddenly feeling ridiculous for being so nervous. A waitress appeared to take Olivia's order. She asked for chamomile tea, her favorite drink. Daniel noticed that some things never change. The silence breaks. "Thank you for meeting me," Olivia finally said, wrapping her hands around her cup when the tea arrived. "I know I owe you explanations. I know nothing I say will undo what happened. But I need you to understand that I never wanted to hurt you." Daniel waited, trying to control the mix of emotions threatening to overflow. "My parents died, Daniel." Her voice cracked slightly. "It was a car accident. They were driving back from visiting my younger brother Tyler at his boarding school. I got the phone call in the middle of the night." Daniel felt a weight press against his chest. "Why did you not tell me? I would have gone with you. I would have supported you." Olivia shook her head sadly. "You were about to graduate. You had that amazing job offer waiting for you. How could I ask you to give up everything to move to a small town with me, to help raise a 12-year-old boy? It was not fair. It was not your decision to make alone," Daniel said, his voice coming out more bitter than he intended. "I know." Tears filled her eyes. "It was cowardly. But I was destroyed, Daniel. I was not thinking clearly. All I knew was that I needed to go home to take care of Tyler. And then, as more time passed, it became harder and harder to reach out. What would I even say?" Understanding comes. Daniel studied her for a long moment, trying to match the Olivia from his memories with the woman sitting before him. "What about Tyler now? How is he?" Olivia's face brightened slightly. "He is doing well. He just finished his second year of engineering school. He is brilliant with computers. Actually, he is thinking about transferring to the university here, which is one reason I took this teaching position." "So you came back," Daniel said slowly, "to build the life you had to leave behind?" "Yes," she finally met his eyes directly. "But I had no idea I would find you here. I did not know you had a daughter, that you had married. I would never have taken this job if I had known it would cause problems." Daniel processed this information, a new question forming in his mind. Did Emma's mom? Is she? "Clara passed away 3 years ago," Daniel said quietly. "Cancer. It happened very fast." Olivia's hand covered her mouth. "Daniel, I am so sorry. I had no idea. How could you know? You disappeared from my life without leaving a trace." The words came out sharper than he planned. The hurt he had carried for 8 years was finding its way to the surface. "A moment of truth. You are right to be angry," Olivia whispered. "I made choices that hurt you, choices I have regretted every single day. But I want you to know that leaving you was the hardest thing I have ever done. There has not been a day when I did not think about what might have been." Daniel felt his anger slowly melting, replaced by something more complicated. "What do we do now?" Olivia bit her lip, clearly struggling. "I do not know. I am Emma's teacher now. There are professional boundaries we need to respect. And we are both different people than we were 8 years ago." "You are assuming this cannot work," Daniel pointed out. "I am considering all the possibilities," Olivia corrected gently, like responsible adults should. The days that follow over the next few weeks, a curious routine developed. Daniel dropped Emma at school every morning, exchanging brief but meaningful glances with Olivia. In the evenings, they texted, sharing small moments from their days, carefully rebuilding a friendship they both knew could become more Rachel. Of course, noticed immediately, "You have that dopey smile again," she announced during their weekly dinner. The Olivia smile. "I do not have a dopey smile," Daniel protested, though he could feel his cheeks warming. "Uncle Danny is always happy now," Emma added helpfully from across the table. "He even sings in the shower. Badly." Rachel laughed while Daniel shook his head at his traitorous family. The planetarium visit 3 weeks after their reunion. Daniel suggested they take Emma to the city planetarium for an educational weekend trip. Olivia accepted the invitation as an educational consultant, A thin excuse that fooled nobody, least of all Emma. "Daddy, is Miss Olivia your girlfriend now?" Emma asked on the drive over. Daniel nearly swerved off the road. "Where did you hear that word?" "Aunt Rachel said you two are obviously in love, but you are being too slow, and someone needs to give you a push." "What does give a push mean?" "It means your aunt needs to learn to keep her thoughts to herself," Daniel muttered. When they picked up Olivia, was wearing a casual dress decorated with tiny stars. The coincidence made Daniel smile. "I dressed for the occasion," she explained with a shy laugh. Under the stars, the planetarium was magical. They explored exhibits about distant galaxies, touched a real meteorite, and watched a film about the formation of the universe. Emma ran from display to display, asking endless questions that Olivia answered with endless patience. During the main show, when the ceiling lit up with thousands of projected stars, Emma fell asleep between them. Daniel felt Olivia's hand find his in the darkness. Neither of them spoke. Neither of them needed to. The moment said everything. When the lights came up, they released hands quickly. But the connection remained. A storm changes everything on the drive home. A sudden rainstorm forced them to seek shelter at Daniel's house. Emma was tired but happy, and after a warm bath and a bedtime story read by Olivia, she drifted off to sleep. The two adults sat in the living room, listening to the rain against the windows. "Thank you for today," Olivia said softly. "It was perfect." "Thank you for coming," Daniel replied. "Emma adores you, and so do I." The words hung in the air between them. Olivia looked at him with something like fear in her eyes. "Daniel, I am scared," she admitted. "Scared of getting close and losing everything again. When Tyler got hurt a few months ago, it reminded me how quickly things can change, how easily people can be taken from us." "I understand fear," Daniel said gently. "I lived with it for years after Clara died. But she taught me something important before she passed. She told me not to waste time on what-ifs and maybes. Life is too short for that." Olivia's eyes glistened with tears. "She sounds like she was very wise." She was. "And one of the last things she asked me to do was to stay open to love. For my sake and for Emma's." A decision made Olivia was quiet for a long moment. Then, slowly, as if making the most important choice of her life, she reached out and touched Daniel's face. "You are right," she whispered. "We have already wasted too much time." And then she kissed him. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, to people rediscovering something precious they thought they had lost forever. But soon it deepened, carrying with it years of longing and regret and hope. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were breathless and smiling. "Does this mean you are staying for dinner?" Daniel asked, his voice deliberately light. Olivia laughed, the most beautiful sound he had ever heard. "That depends. Are you making your famous spaghetti?" "For you, I will even make it properly this time." Outside, the storm was passing, leaving the world fresh and clean. Inside, two hearts that had been broken were finally beginning to heal. The weeks following that rainy night brought changes Daniel had only dreamed about. He and Olivia officially became a couple, though they agreed to keep things quiet until the school year ended. Olivia wanted to maintain her professional reputation, and Daniel respected that decision completely. For Emma, the adjustment was surprisingly smooth. She had known something was different long before any announcements were made. "Daddy," she said one morning over breakfast, "when Miss Olivia becomes your wife, do I call her Mom, or do I keep calling her Miss Olivia?" Daniel choked on his coffee. "What makes you think we are getting married?" Emma shrugged with the confidence only a 7-year-old could possess. "Aunt Rachel said it is only a matter of time. She already wants to be the flower arranger person." "Florist," Daniel corrected automatically. "And your aunt has a lot of opinions. She says opinions are free. That is why she shares so many." Daniel made another mental note to have a serious conversation with his sister about what she discussed. In front of his daughter, Tyler arrives a few months into their renewed relationship. Olivia's brother Tyler came to visit. Daniel had heard stories about the young computer genius, but meeting him in person was another experience entirely. "So you were the famous Daniel?" Tyler said with a knowing smile when they shook hands at dinner. My sister talks about you constantly. I mean constantly, Tyler, Olivia warned, her cheeks turning pink. What? It is true. Every phone call is Daniel this, Daniel that. Emma did the cutest thing. Tyler grinned wider. I feel like I already know your whole life story. Emma, seated beside Tyler, studied him with curious eyes. Can you really make video games? I am learning how, Tyler said. Would you like me to show you how the coding works sometime? Yes, please. Emma's eyes lit up. Daddy says games are just fancy math. Is that true? Pretty much, Tyler admitted. But do not tell anyone. We like people to think it is magic. A family dinner later that evening. While Emma and Tyler bonded over discussions of programming and pizza toppings, Olivia pulled Daniel aside. Thank you for welcoming him, she said quietly. He means so much to me. He is important to you, which makes him important to me, Daniel replied simply. Besides, Emma already loves him. She has been begging for someone to explain why her tablet games work. Olivia smiled, leaning her head against his shoulder. This feels like a dream sometimes. Like I'm going to wake up and discover none of it is real. Daniel wrapped his arm around her. It is real. I promise. And I am not going anywhere. The big announcement as the school year came to a close. The principal made a surprise announcement at the end-of-year celebration. Olivia had been selected to become the new curriculum coordinator for the elementary division, a promotion that recognized her exceptional teaching abilities. Daniel watched with overwhelming pride as Olivia accepted the position, looking both shocked and thrilled. The promotion meant she would no longer be Emma's direct teacher, removing the last professional barrier between them. Did you know about this? Olivia asked him later, still glowing from the surprise. I had no idea. But I am not surprised. You are amazing at what you do. Rachel, who had joined them for the celebration, could not contain her excitement. This is perfect. Now you can officially date without any weird teacher-parent complications. We were already officially dating Rachel, Daniel pointed out. Yes, but now you can do it publicly. Hold hands in the pickup line. Kiss at school events. She clapped her hands together. This calls for champagne? 6 months later, the winter holidays arrived with cold weather and warm feelings. Daniel's house had become a gathering place for their growing family. Rachel visited constantly. Tyler transferred to the local university as planned. And Olivia had unofficially moved in, though she still kept her apartment for the sake of appearances. On Christmas Eve, after a dinner that included entirely too much food and laughter, Daniel asked Emma to help him with something in his bedroom. What is it, Daddy? She asked, bouncing with holiday excitement. Daniel opened his sock drawer and pulled out a small velvet box. I need your opinion on something very important. Emma's eyes went wide when she saw the ring inside. A simple diamond on a silver band, elegant and timeless. Is that for Miss Olivia? She whispered. What do you think? Should I ask her to marry us? Emma threw her arms around his neck. Yes, yes, yes. She is going to say yes. I know she is. The proposal that evening. After Tyler and Rachel had gone home, and Emma had been tucked into bed with promises that Santa would come soon, Daniel led Olivia outside to the backyard where he had set up a small telescope. What is this about? She asked, curious but smiling. Remember our first date in college? We spent the whole night looking at stars and talking about the future. Olivia's eyes softened with memory. I remember everything about that night. Daniel pointed the telescope toward a particular cluster of stars. That is the constellation Cygnus, the Swan. You told me once that you loved it because it looks like it is flying towards something beautiful. Olivia looked through the telescope, her breath catching. I cannot believe you remembered that. I remember everything about you, Olivia. Daniel took her hands in his. I have loved you since I was 22 years old. I loved you when you were here. I loved you when you were gone. And I have loved you every single day since you came back into my life. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the velvet box. Getting down on one knee in the cold December air, would you do me the incredible honor of becoming my wife? Will you be Emma's mother and my partner for however many years the universe gives us? Tears streamed down Olivia's face as she nodded frantically. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. Daniel slipped a ring onto her finger and stood to kiss her properly. In the window behind them, a small face appeared, followed by a squeal of joy. She said yes. Emma's voice carried through the glass. I knew she would say yes. A new beginning. The wedding took place the following summer in a garden filled with flowers and surrounded by everyone who mattered. Emma served as flower girl, taking her responsibility very seriously. Tyler walked his sister down the aisle with tears in his eyes. Rachel, as promised, handled the flowers, though she also took credit for the entire relationship happening in the first place. I knew it from the moment you told me she was back, she whispered to Daniel before the ceremony. The universe brought her back for a reason. For once, Daniel did not argue with his sister, the vow standing before their families and friends. Daniel and Olivia exchanged vows they had written themselves. I spent 8 years wondering what happened to you, Daniel began. 8 years carrying questions that had no answers, but now I understand that every step, every heartbreak, every moment of doubt was leading us back to each other. You are not just my second chance, Olivia. You are my best chance. My only chance, and I promise to spend every day of our lives making sure you know how loved you are. Olivia wiped her eyes before speaking. When I left all those years ago, I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was protecting you from a life that would not make you happy. But the truth is, I was protecting myself from the fear of losing something perfect. Now I know better. Now I know that perfect is not about avoiding risk. It is about taking the leap anyway, trusting that the person beside you will be there to catch you. Daniel, Emma, you are my home. You have always been my home. I just took the long way to get here. Happily ever after, as they sealed their vows with a kiss, Emma pushed her way between them, wrapping her arms around both of their legs. Now we are a real family, she announced to everyone watching. The guests laughed and applauded, but Daniel saw nothing but the two people in his arms. Now we are a real family, he agreed, his voice thick with emotion. Years later, when people asked Daniel about the greatest day of his life, he never hesitated. It was not the wedding, though. That was beautiful. It was not the day Emma was born, though that was miraculous. It was the ordinary morning when he dropped his daughter at school, running late as usual, and walked into a classroom to find the woman he never got over standing at the front of the room, because that was the day the universe finally stopped joking around and gave him back everything he had lost. That was the day Daniel Hayes stopped looking backward and started looking forward. That was the day his forever finally began.